probably a common injury among soccer players.
Actually, it was a really rare. You would think that, and that so it was a really rare condition that I had a doctor tell me he diagnosed. It's called compartment syndrome, and he diagnosed me with that after about a month. So what was happening was I would start running. You know, we were in the off season, so I graduated early from high school, started college early, so I was still 17 when I started college and started in the off season. And every time I ran, my legs would go numb from the knee, like all the way down through my toes. And so I didn't know. I thought I was just out of shape. You know, I'd put on some Christmas weight or something like that, and I was just trying to run it off.
Because normally when you eat a couple too many cookies, your feet go numb.
Well, you know, anything.
My age, we
that's
call
one
it
of those.
gout.
That's right.
We call it gout at my age.
Anything to convince yourself that you're fine when you're an athlete, where you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But anyways, the doctor, when I got tested for it and diagnosed with it, he was like, your career's probably over.
Really?
Yeah. So that was, again, I hadn't even stepped on the field in a collegiate game. And he was
Holy
like,
cow.
yeah, we can try surgery and you know, it may work a little bit, but this is never going to go away. You'll always kind of have this issue. And lo and behold, he was right. I do.
Who gave me a podcast? This is Jeff Allen. Welcome to my podcast.
Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Jeff Allen, and this is Who Gave Jeff Allen a Podcast. That is the quintessential question of my life right now. We're going to find you. There's 6 billion of you, and we know where you're at. Today's guest, and I'm looking forward to this, is an athlete, and I love talking to jocks. So anyway, Ben Locke is an author, speaker whose work is rooted in honest faith and lived experience. And you are the author and published author of the book, In Our Suffering, Lord Be Near, Prayers of Hope for the Hurting. This is a great topic, and I want to get deeper into that. A collection of prayers written for those who are walking through pain, grief, and seasons of unanswered questions. Rather than offering quick fixes or spiritual platitudes, Ben's writing invites readers to bring their full selves before God, including doubt, anger, sorrow, and weariness. And his prayers are grounded in Scripture and shaped by our personal seasons of suffering that required endurance, humility, and trust when clarity was absent. What a great, great topic. My father, welcome, Ben Locke.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. And my father used the argument of suffering as why God didn't exist. And I tried to, again, the platitude that we're in a fallen world and things are broken, and when things are broken, pain exists. But there's also, to me, let's just get a little bit about you. We were talking off air. It turns out you were from the same town my wife is from, Tammy.
First time ever.
Hudson, Ohio. I know.
That's right. Represent.
Yeah. I grew up in Sauk Village, Illinois, and I bumped into somebody. It's like 3,000 people.
Okay.
And somewhere in the middle of Florida, I bumped into a guy that says, I grew up in Sauk Village.
You're like,
how do I not know you?
We should know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
You grew up in Hudson, which, if you're not familiar with Hudson, they lobbed Fabergé eggs on Halloween. Very, very well-to-do. And Tammy will tell you that she was on the other side of the tracks. But so you grew up in Hudson, and you soccer. That was your game, which I still cannot get my head around because
there's still time, Jeff.
I know. I'm a child of the '50s. And it was baseball. It was literally Little League. Starting on Memorial Day, every park was filled with kids playing baseball.
I did play baseball growing up too, to be fair, and then I got bored, to be honest with you. That's why, which I don't want to start a fight on the podcast, but I had the choice between soccer and baseball, and I just got a little bored. I was a center fielder, and when you're 8 or 9 years old playing center field, it's easy for baseball to get boring.
I was a catcher. I was in on every pitch.
That makes a lot more sense.
That fit ADD. You're in on every pitch.
That's right.
You're right, though.
You can't get bored.
When I was in college and the coach wanted to give me a rest, he moved me to left field.
There you go.
And I almost got caught with my back to the home plate because I was out looking. I was staring off.
Right.
At one point, the coach walked down the third base line and he said, Jeff, it would help if you just paid attention. And I said, Outfield's not my.
I was gonna say, I might say more about how good I was at baseball. That they were like, why don't you just go play in the outfield? But
Well, no, see, center field and left field. Right field
Yeah.
was for the kid that didn't know
That's
what he
right.
was doing.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that
Right
was
field
it.
was if you couldn't hit and couldn't play, you played right field.
Yeah.
Batted ninth.
Yeah,
So,
and batted ninth.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I just to clarify, former athlete, former jock. I'm definitely recovering, so it's easy to. I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah,
Not
we're
an
gonna
athlete anymore.
get into
Not an athlete anymore.
your story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there was a pastor. I heard a sermon once, and he was a former Division I college football player, and said the hardest people to reach with the gospel are gifted athletes because they have skills, they have talents, and they naively think that the end result of their athletic prowess is they may give God the glory for the gift that they have, but he said to really get their attention, injury. He said, you throw an ACL tear or a broken bone in their direction, and then you'll determine whether or not the rubber meets the road. That's kind of your story. You were on a track to playing professional soccer. That was the plan.
Yeah, that was the plan, and I was going to say that before you did. I mean, there's a certain level of arrogance and pride, I think, that comes with being an athlete, and some of that is internal. I'm the man that I'm the best player on the team. I'm getting told all these things, and then a lot of that, some of that's external too. People look up to athletes. You get a scholarship. You're playing at a certain level, and I think there's a feeling of invincibility that comes when you're an athlete. And I was actually, ironically, all the way up until college, I never really got injured. And so I was always healthy. I was always able to play. And then, as soon as I got to college, it took about a month for my first injury to kick in. And then it was just a snowball from there. So,
yeah. Now tell me about the first injury was probably a common injury among soccer players.
Actually, it was a really rare. You would think that, and that so it was a really rare condition that I had a doctor tell me he diagnosed. It's called compartment syndrome, and he diagnosed me with that after about a month. So what was happening was I would start running. We were in the off season, so I graduated early from high school, started college early, so I was still 17 when I started college, and started in the off season. And every time I ran, my legs would go numb from the knee, like all the way down through my toes. And so I didn't know. I thought I was just out of shape. I'd put on some Christmas weight or something like that, and I was just trying to run it off.
Because normally when you eat a couple too many cookies, your feet
right.
go numb.
Anything.
My age, we
that's
call
one
it
of those.
gout.
That's right.
We call it gout at my age.
Anything to convince yourself that you're fine when you're an athlete, where you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But anyways, the doctor, when I got tested for it and diagnosed with it, he was like, your career's probably over.
Really?
Yeah. So that was, again, I hadn't even stepped on the field in a collegiate game. And he was
Holy
like,
cow.
yeah, we can try surgery and it may work a little bit, but this is never going to go away. You'll always kind of have this issue. And lo and behold, he was right. I do. But I was able to get the surgery and kind of come back from it. But it was pretty brutal.
Is it a nerve?
So it's the scientific explanation is the muscle, the fascia wraps the muscle, and the fascia is supposed to expand with the muscle when you work out, and mine didn't. So it was just pressure, basically, a bunch of pressure buildup. So that's why it got numb, and it was brutal. It would take half a day or a day for the feeling to come back into my legs. And so again, as a soccer player, you're running 8 or 9 miles a game. So it was basically the worst case scenario for.
So you're
freshmen.
17, and you got to process this.
That's right.
How were your parents throughout this whole thing? Were they understanding, or did you have a close relationship with your parents?
I did. My parents are incredible. I'm very thankful for them. They're married for 30 years now. Now I'd actually left the house on my 16th birthday, so I had moved in with a host family. Actually moved away from my parents, not because of anything that was wrong in the house, but because I was pursuing my soccer dream essentially. So they were very supportive, but it was from a distance. They lived in Nashville. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina at NC State. So they were as supportive as they could be, but when you're a 17-year-old freshman in a 40,000 person, state school, there's only so much you can do. It was my trainers, it was my coaches, my teammates. Those were really the people I was doing life with. So
how many people get this?
I have yet to know another person or athlete that's had the condition. I heard a story that one of the Preds guys got it, but it was an acute. It was an acute version. There's an acute and then a long-term version of it. But I've never known somebody else to have the same issue.
Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I could see why you would mind. Now, did you have a relationship with God at that point? Did you have a faith or?
So I grew up in the church, which is not an answer to your question, but it's my answer to your question. So now looking
I live
back,
in the South. I know how it's a cultural thing.
There you go. So I now looking back, my answer is absolutely not. I mean, I was going to church, and again, my parents, to their credit, they would drag us along whenever I wasn't out traveling to play soccer. But no, not at the time. Definitely not.
So after the injury, obviously there's depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's doubt. Did you immediately turn towards God and say, why? Or did someone come to you and say the thing that really annoys people, like it's God's will?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
God
I've heard
shuts
that a
one
lot
door,
of times.
opens another.
That's right. All the bumper stickers.
Right.
No, actually. So part of my story actually is after that first surgery, right after that first surgery, actually, my athletic trainer started sexually abusing me, sexually assaulting me. And so that actually snowballed and kind of, you talk about depression, identity crisis, that compounded very quickly into something else that was taking place kind of alongside of trying to heal and get better physically and get back onto the field. And so that compounded with the identity crisis, the injury, the inability to play, I went the opposite direction. I was like, screw this. There's no way I believe in God. I was just frustrated. And at the same time, I was also just trying to get through the day. I was trying to just get back on the field. So in a lot of ways, I wasn't really thinking about the bigger picture. I was just like, all right, I gotta figure this out. I gotta get back on the field. I gotta get healthy. I wasn't really thinking
So you
about
hadn't
my
quite
faith.
accepted the fact that this was a terminal,
That's right.
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. That's right. Not a terrible thing, and I did believe I could come back from it. It wasn't career ending, but it kind of kickstarted a whole series of health issues and injuries that snowballed in the following years.
Wow, so much in that. Wow.
Yeah.
Again, I'm 70 years old and I couldn't process all of that at the same time. It's like a snowball.
Yeah.
That just kept gaining.
Yeah.
And again, the relationship with your parents. Were you able to share about the abuse or?
Not right away. So
Most victims don't.
That's right.
Don't.
Well, and when you're a man, I talk about this a lot now. I didn't at the time, but there are all these other dynamics and nuances when you're a man, when you're a Division I athlete, and you're supposed to be, again, the guy and strong, fit, whatever it is. So no, absolutely not. It was something that took place over about 2 to 2.5 years that I was there before I transferred to a different school. And it was probably 4 years after the first incident happened that I ended up sharing it with my parents. But it was a pretty drawn out process. I was afraid to tell them. I didn't know how they would react. I wasn't necessarily scared of how they were going to react, but it's such an uncomfortable thing. It was still an uncomfortable thing to talk about, and so I wasn't sure how do I approach a situation where I'm telling mom and dad that this thing happened. So no, it took me a while to.
Yeah, I got molested at 8. I never told anybody.
Yeah,
I didn't even deal with it till I was in my 50s.
Okay.
And I remember telling a therapist. I said, "Well, it was consensual."
And you were 8?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you
Yeah,
rationalize,
that's right.
you justify.
Whatever
you
it
go,
takes.
hey,
Yeah.
I was, completely aware. I knew what was going on. I didn't repress it to the point where it was a
right.
memory I remembered. It was, if you had asked me, I would have said, "Oh, yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And she says, "Okay, you have an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
If some guy did that to your 8-year-old, I said I'd rip his thyroid
That's
out."
right. That's right. It's funny what we do internally, what we'll tell ourselves. So I'm thankful that I got to process it a little sooner than that. And again, that's a credit to my family pushing me. I got into therapy after fighting that for probably 4 or 5 years. Eventually I went. But but it's not.
Did it lead you to dark places? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, like drinking, drugging, and
So yeah, the short answer is yes. Nothing extreme. More so just in conjunction with my athletic career. Like I maintained my athletic career. I played 5 years of college soccer, and then again, I still try to go pro. And that's another story that I'm sure we'll get to.
so you played through the injury. I mean,
I did.
Yeah.
So it was about a 4-month recovery, that first surgery. And then in the recovery process, I injured my groin and my hip flexor. And so I ended up, that kind of opened the door
Couple of
for
important things.
Right. Well, and it opened the door for my trainer to kind of continue doing what he was doing and actually, ratchet it up a notch. And so I had about a 14-month period after that first injury that I was having groin, and eventually I got diagnosed with a sports hernia in both of my legs. That got operated on, and then a year after I had a hip labrum repair. So it was three major surgeries in 3 years, and then I played my first college season basically as a junior.
Wow. Yeah. And soccer is the kind of game for people who, like me, I get bored watching it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a slow-paced game. It takes
offense.
patience.
Yeah.
You said you run 8 to 9 miles in a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah.
And short sprints. And
You need your groin and your hip flexor.
Yeah, I would think.
You need a lot of that. They're important.
Hips,
That's right.
Yeah.
Those are important pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't kind of lay down and,
You can't be out in right field just hanging
standing
out,
there,
looking
picking
around.
blades of grass.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you'll be in trouble. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after college, what was your major in? Did you?
So I tell people all the time I majored in soccer. I chose the easiest I got a business major. And again, I transferred about halfway through my college career. And so I had a psych minor and a Spanish minor, but I lost that when I transferred. So I ended up kind of graduating by the skin of my teeth with a business major.
¿Qué pasó, Ben?
Bien.
That's as far as I can
I'm
go.
It's a little rusty. I shouldn't have brought that up, but yeah.
I knew I don't order a cold beer
That's right.
in the
Just the
hood.
necessities.
Gosh, there's so many questions, and we wrote out a bunch, and wow. Losses tend to teach you more than wins. Again, I hate these bumper stickers. I really do.
There's a reason they exist, I guess.
Yeah, I know, but it's like...
But I hate them too.
Those of us who tend to lean more cynical, when someone comes, shut up.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want the
I
bumper
mean that in a
sticker.
Christian loving way, but shut up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but secrets that we carry are probably the most damaging things to our souls. Bible's very clear that things brought to light. You're dealing in truth then, Are you married now? I don't even know.
I'm not.
No.
Yeah. I'm single. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dating. Not married.
Gosh, man. You blindsided me with,
Sorry, I probably should have brought
Not
that
at
up.
all. It's not even that.
I'm totally open to it, by the way.
Injuries and stuff are one thing, but then those, that is just, wow, the ultimate violation of a man, and having dealt with and dealing with and still dealing with that part of my childhood is, so you write a book. They say write them out.
Yeah, that's right.
So what was the genesis for the book? Just your journey to find, was there a road to Damascus moment? Or were you like me? I took 7 or 8 years just kind of looking for, okay, if you exist, what does it look like? What does it feel like? I mean, I don't necessarily believe you exist, but so when did you move from atheism to agnosticism? Or did you ever just totally not believe in God?
No, some part of my mind or heart, whatever you want to call it, always could not rationalize my existence without a higher power, without, I could not rationalize that it was happenstance that I existed. That never really made sense to me. So I always believed in a God or something that I would, you could refer to as a God. But the shorter version of the story is, so after that third surgery, I was able to play again finally, and I was actually, we went to the Sweet 16. We had a couple of really fantastic years, and I was starting to get looks from some of the professional clubs, that hopefully sign a contract after my senior year. And I got into a car accident. Yeah, so this is. See, I'm glad you can laugh. I'm glad you can laugh.
But
it's one of those things where
it's like Joe. My God,
you tell a story and people sometimes don't know how to react. I'm like, it's okay to laugh. It's kind of funny.
Well, I'm sick anyway. So
well, there you go. There you go.
These are the kind of
that's
movies.
why I'm here, Jeff.
These are the kind of movies I enjoy, and they make me laugh.
This is a good movie.
First time I read Job, I laughed my ass off. So. That's how twisted I am.
No, it's I say all the time that in order to you really have to go through certain things in order to view the world in a certain way, in order to find the comedy in things. That's what I believe.
Well, they say comedy's tragedy plus
that's
time.
Right, and it's
so
a little
when
bit
you
of
distance
cynicism.
Yourself from the pain.
That's right.
You should find a humor.
That's right. So so the car accident kind of. Really bad concussion, damaged my neck, and that was leading up to my senior year. I should have called it quits.
So God's just working his way up your body.
That's exactly right. He started down here, and that's
he's
right.
Left the hips,
that's
and
right. He graduated. He was like, you're not going to escape this one." Was basically what happened. You need your brain.
You keep playing soccer. I don't want you playing soccer.
It's funny and it's true. That's how we are. That's how I am. I was so dead set on this thing, and of course I started playing soccer when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so to try to rationalize letting that go, and I'm a competitor, like deep in my DNA.
I'm picking that up.
Yeah. And so it was like, I can't, what am I going to do? Get a job? Go into business? Like that doesn't, no, I'm going to, I want to run around a field 8 to 10 miles a game. But, that really was sort of the final nail in the coffin. About 6 or 7 months later, I ended up in the emergency room and was having a bunch of neurological symptoms, and that kind of kick-started my faith journey. So I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease at that point, and so finally found a doctor. I probably saw 10 or 11 doctors, and eventually landed on one that was like, hey, this is this whole complex thing that's been happening in your body, and it's been sort of manifesting itself in all these symptoms. And so that diagnosis came after the car accident. I was in bed. I was on bed rest for probably 2.5 years. Like that was a brutal, brutal period of my life. And we joked about it. It's true. The Lord literally took everything away. To the point where I was, like I said, I was in bed 22 hours a day for about 2.5 years. God. And so
there's something important you said. I want to hold that thought, because 10 or 11 different doctors before you found one. I grew up in a period where we elevated doctors to godlike statuses. So you get one opinion and they tell you they don't know everything. And when you get into areas like this, it does help to get multiple opinions.
Absolutely.
So were you going to different parts of the country for this, or were you sticking in, where were you living at this point?
I was here.
In Nashville?
Yeah, okay. So I finished my playing career.
So we have good hospitals here. I mean,
that's
we have
right.
Vanderbilt,
that's right.
St. Thomas, a very good Williamson County Medical.
That's right.
Looking for a sponsorship. We'll take either one.
That'd be a good sponsor, yeah.
Yeah.
They were I think all local. I travel a little bit, but nothing crazy.
Do you want to mention the name of the doctor that found it?
Dr. Eric Potter is his name. He's he was a believer, and it was like
that's rare. It's rare when you get a medical profession.
Unbelievable.
Which is unusual because
that's right.
The guy that mapped out the human genome became a believer after he looked at it and said, it's just too intricate.
There you go.
To have been by an accident.
That is exactly right. So he helped put all the pieces together. I was going in to get treatment 3 times a week. I was doing IVs and getting different drugs and, supplements. He was very holistic. I can't speak highly enough about him. But the process was essentially a detox. And so it was incredibly painful and draining. It was like detoxing from anything, alcohol, drugs.
Were you taking steroids and things for the pain, or were you?
Oh, not for the pain, no. But for just kind of purging my system of what was inside of my immune system and all that kind of stuff. So, just a really, really hard period. And so about 2 years.
Was it environmental stuff that
It was
caused
environmental stuff, Lyme disease. So that was the autoimmune stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So it was all related to, and that kind of stuff. You know, I know this isn't a health and wellness podcast.
Oh, we do.
But,
Actually, we do a lot of it, don't we?
Oh, well, there you go.
We do everything.
We do everything.
Yeah, but
There
it
you go.
is. I mean, that's important, I think.
Well, and it's really complex. And so anybody that has autoimmune disease, a lot of times you get misdiagnosed, you know, or you get diagnosed with multiple things that are kind of comorbid. And so
There was a friend of mine who used to do a show, a joke about he saw Dr. Heimlich, you know, when he was a kid, and he'd go, my throat hurts, and he'd go, he goes, my foot hurts, and he'd go, and then finally I had something in my throat, and he goes,
it was like,
yeah,
there we
he's got
go.
like one thing,
There
he
we
just goes, this is it.
I don't want to be known for anything else.
Exactly. So anyway, you know, at least you got a guy that was willing to look at the whole body and go, look, we got to check boxes.
That's
here.
exactly right.
You know?
He was tremendous,
Yeah.
and a godsend. I mean, genuinely, I got diagnosed with the most ridiculous things. I mean, I would go into doctors' offices and they would, you know, talk to me for a minute and then leave and be like, yeah, this is what's wrong with you. And you know, I'm like, we didn't even sit and have a conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
So
we went through that with my wife and her breast cancer. The guy breezes right by, pats her on the hand, says it's probably benign.
That's right.
And you want to go, boy, what a genius. I mean, why we can leave now. You know, and very flippant, very short, very always looking at his watch while she was asking questions. And she called him up when we got home and said, told the nurse, if he doesn't change his attitude, we're finding another surgeon.
Wow.
And he completely did a 180. Came back and said, I'm sorry. He goes, I have a terrible bedside manner. I'm good at what I do. What are your questions? And he sat there for 30 minutes, which is an eternity for a guy like that. You know, like you said, a lot of them are just flipping as many patients as they can in a day.
That's right.
You know.
Well, and it's, you know, it's interesting. As I've gotten older, you know, I've realized partially what happened with my trainer, you know, we entrust certain people in our lives to things, and doctors and sort of medical professionals are one of those people, coaches, teachers, parents, you know, and some of that's good. You know, I trust a doctor more than I trust my brother, you know, who doesn't know anything about health and wellness. And so I shouldn't take his word for it, but I should trust my doctor. But there's a flip side of that, which is there's a lot of power, you know, and there's a lot of authority in those dynamics and those relationships. And so the power dynamics can be really challenging, and whether it's, you know, what I went through in college or something like illness and trying to make sure that somebody's actually listening to you and taking care of your needs and answering your questions, you know, you have to find your voice in that and find people that are willing to listen to that. So
yeah, that's what Tammy was great at. I don't know if I would have been as a person who despises conflict.
Yeah.
She, she took charge.
Good for her.
Again,
Yeah.
you know, she said, this is my decisions ultimately. I just want information, you know. So she read Susan Love's book on breast cancer. And it's like the Bible for breast cancer.
Okay.
I think she read it 4 or 5 different times. So she had, you know, she had questions, and they had the answers. She just needed to get them to listen to her, and that was the hard part.
Yep,
So
that's
until
exactly right.
you know, and I watched what my mother went through with her cancer, and she just did whatever the doctor said. And this guy was traveling the world speaking.
Interesting.
I got one of the best oncologists in the world, and she, yeah, but he's never there, Mom. You know,
You got to be there.
yeah, exactly.
You have to
I mean,
be
that's
there.
great.
Yeah.
You know, that he's sending his surrogates to come in, but you know, no, he's not actually doing the work. He's not your doctor. You know.
Interesting.
I had one of the best internists in Nashville, who I won't mention his name because I never saw the guy.
Interesting.
And I've learned to trust nurse practitioners. Most of the people I go to now are nurse practitioners.
Yep.
They truly love what they do, and they truly want to get you well.
Yep.
And they're not in it for the money, because the money doesn't
That's right.
build those big houses in West Haven. You know?
That's exactly right. I found a very similar thing.
Yeah, I have we go to Grace Point in Franklin, and I have Medicare, and they don't take Medicare. It's a concierge and everything's on a menu. You know what it costs when you go in, which is the way healthcare should be.
That's a miracle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's
I know.
a crazy concept.
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine going to the grocery store and then you don't know what it costs until you get through the register?
Yeah. Or a month later when you get a bill in the mail. Yeah.
Can of corn, $122. Wow.
Like, sorry, this is just the way that it is.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
It's crazy.
Holy cow! This conversation went nowhere near what I thought it was, and we'll get to suffering.
Yeah, yeah, we've already gotten to it a little bit.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
and what a fascinating. Carolyn, you did well here. This is great. Yeah, and here's one I love. I love this. And first of all, let's deal with the book here.
Yeah.
This is In Our Suffering, Lord Be Near. I asked you, and I interrupted you, and I know I interrupt a lot because people tell me that in the comments. So
don't read the comments, Jeff.
I don't read them.
Never read them.
She tells me I never read them. I rarely. I don't want to say that because then they'll quit commenting, but it's rare, And calling me a douchebag, really is not productive. I just want you to. I just want you to know. Just want you to know when you're commenting to artists. Ad hominem attacks really don't go very far, because we've heard them all.
Get a little more creative.
It started with my parents.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, I forgive you, bless your heart. So anyway, you didn't go to college to be a writer. English wasn't your, obviously Spanish was your choice.
I guess, that's how bad my English was, maybe.
I'm going to do Spanish. But, so you decide, was it journaling that started you?
That's what it was.
Did someone recommend your journal?
My family. Again, that's definitely a theme of my life, and this conversation, I'm sure, is my family has been incredible, and at the same time, they were probably like, "Gosh, we're tired of listening to Ben whine all the time. So why don't we get him a notebook so he can whine? He can whine to the notebook."
I love it. I was too.
Like let's this way we won't have to deal with him talking about it as much. They encouraged me to write, and I never wrote. I never kept a journal, even growing up or anything like that.
So how old are you at this point?
So I'm 23, 24 years old, just out of college. I did my master's. So this is kind of pandemic.
You had a master's?
Yeah. Again, to play a fifth year of soccer. That's the only reason I got.
How come
my
you
master's.
don't do this more often?
Well, people would
that
see
have
right through
high
me.
degrees
I'm sure.
always are contemplating.
Yeah.
And they have to do this to let you know they're contemplating.
This is how they know. Right
Yeah,
here.
you're deep thinking.
Yeah. No, maybe
Jeff,
I'll adopt that more.
It's funny. I haven't
really
asked you
good
one
point.
interesting question because you have never went.
Well, maybe that's
that's a great question.
We'll get that when the questions get a little more interesting. No,
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Thank you.
I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
No. So they encouraged me to get a notebook. I did, and I started writing, and that was around
Old
the same
school,
time.
too.
Yeah, pen and
Handwriting.
paper. I don't write. I don't type anything that I write to this day. Pen and paper. And that's also when I got my Bible out and started reading it, kind of for the first time.
Where'd you start?
Job. Went straight to Job.
That's funny.
I was like, I know exactly. I've heard of this guy. I've heard a little bit of his story. So I went to Job.
Relate.
What? Yeah, that's right. And that's true. I read Job and I was like, this is how I feel. And I did not. My perception of the church.
Were you getting advice like his friends were giving him? I mean, from people, well-meaning.
Yes.
What did you do?
The short answer
that God
is
would
yes.
smite you with all this.
Well, and we talked about it too. The bumper stickers. There's a lot of that, and I know people mean well. I also think that people don't know what to say, and so one of the reasons that I've talked about this a lot with my book is it's not just for people who are suffering. A lot of times it's for people who are witnessing someone suffer or alongside somebody who's suffering because we don't know how to talk about it. And one of my favorite stories, actually, ironically, because the friends in the book of Job proceed to really, make a fool of themselves. But in the beginning of the book, they actually sit with, the word says that they sit with Job for 7 days and nobody says anything. They just sit in silence and they weep and they cry. And I'm like, that's actually one of the best examples of friendship maybe in the entire scripture. So anyways, I went straight to Job and then I read the Psalms as well. And so the Psalms is where I saw some of the creative writing that's in my book. My book is poetry. It's sort of this more creative approach to writing, and the Psalms really inspired that. And the story of Job was affirmation. I guess, in a sense. It was validation, and it was like looking in a mirror a little bit that it just encouraged. I didn't know that was possible, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the message is that God is in our suffering.
That's
He's there.
Yep.
You know?
That's exactly right.
You know, it's funny when you were talking about that. I never would call friends that were going through hard times because I didn't know what to say. And I finally called one day and I said, I don't know what to say. And he broke down on the phone and said, thank you.
Yep.
Just for calling and being here. And I said, I'm not good at this. And he said, you don't have to. You know, again, not knowing what to say. I know what you're going through, or I can feel your pain, or I can. And you're right. It's uncomfortable, especially when it's somebody you love.
That's right.
You know.
Yep.
What a blessing to have a family that just basically said you need to write this stuff out.
I can't thank them enough.
Yeah.
And presence is a really powerful thing, and that's what you're alluding to. Presence is so powerful, and a lot of times, especially when things are fresh. You know, when you're in the middle of it, a lot of times silence is the best thing. Now, that doesn't mean you disappear. Like, that's why presence is really important. That's why just saying, hey, I'm here. What do you need? Or do you need anything? But yeah, I can't speak highly enough about my family. I'm incredibly blessed, and they just showed up, and they kept showing up, and that got me through some of the worst. And then writing, it really was my it was my outlet. It was I could say whatever I wanted, you know, when I wrote it down. There were no repercussions really when I wrote it down, and I got to this place where I was like, these are the things I'm thinking. So I should. There's no harm in putting them down, and that was sort of an evolution of my faith too, because a lot of times I was hiding the things that I was thinking from God, assuming that He didn't know them, you know, that I could tuck them away and He couldn't see them. But the process of saying no, these things are there, and He knows they're there, so I'm just going to put them down on paper was cathartic for me.
Yeah, I usually use the line, when you get on your knees and complain to God about a broken world, His response to you is, yeah, I know.
That's right.
You're not telling Him anything. I used to talk about journaling when I started my recovery from alcoholism. I journaled, and I had 3 pages of I hate. 3 pages. That's all I wrote. I hate.
Wow.
And at the end of all of that, I just broke down and sobbed, and I wanted to know why I hated so much. I don't know. I didn't know what else to write.
Wow.
You know, it's honest. You know, wouldn't make a good bestseller.
Well, you never know. Actually, you never know. There's a lot of people that probably identify with that.
75 pages of I hate.
Well, I would say if people read through everything I've written,
Right.
I would really not want them to do that.
Right.
Let me just say that, because you know, you've got a prayer on this page, and then you've got, you know, something that I can't repeat on this podcast on the next page. Yeah. But at the same time, I was actually reading some of the stuff that I had written before I came here, and that's the process. You know, and that's what's so fascinating about God is a lot of what He has to do is for us. I have to be changed. I have to grow up. I have to mature. And He just uses circumstance to do that, and that's what He did. He, you know, and again, I think a really important distinction for me was God didn't want this for me. God didn't strike me down with sickness, but He permitted it. It was part of His permitted will, but not something. The Word says that He can only give good things, and so I had to wrestle with that for a very, very long time, because a lot of my anger was towards the Lord. I was angry at God,
Right,
and I was taught so much in saying, no, I'm the product of a fallen and broken world.
Well, it's interesting because that's a mature point of view. But when you're a kid growing up, we grow up with the cop in the sky.
That's right.
You know, the guy on the throne that's directing traffic down here. And then when everything's blessed and going well, it's really easy
That's right.
to say the words, you know, thank you, God, for this. I was told when I got into in the recovery for alcoholism that one day I will thank God for this. And I laughed. I said, first of all, I don't believe in God, but why would I thank him for this? And I can remember the day, thank you for this.
Wow.
Because it led me to you, And I always call God the great improviser. We get off the path.
Good.
We get off the path, and he's got to kind of figure out how to work things.
That's right.
And again, this isn't something you asked for in your wildest imagination, but in hindsight, would soccer have fulfilled you as much as this? Or
Absolutely not. And that's processing the end of my playing career is something that I think is still happening, to be honest with you. And a lot of that is because, it's tied to the part of my story that's related to abuse, which is something that I think I'll wrestle with for the rest of my life, to be honest with you. But that's so interwoven with soccer, and I've since come to find out a lot more about what happened, and there are other men that have come forward, and praise God for that. But my career ended because of that. Basically, I was supposed to be diagnosed with something that probably a year sooner than what I did, so it cratered my playing career, and so I could have never. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if that path continued to go the way that it was going.
Have you been able to forgive him?
What a good question.
Wow, we're 40 minutes
There
in.
you go.
Finally,
there you go.
There you go.
No. The answer is yes, I think so. I guess is how I would put it. I've learned that forgiveness is a lifelong process. I'm also learning. I think that forgiveness is a choice, and I don't think it's a choice that you make one time, especially with things like that were kind of catastrophic and just really significant, because there are moments where I just get so angry about what happened, or feel robbed or stolen of certain things, and so I get frustrated or quiet and depressed.
Yeah,
anxious.
well, intimacy going
That's
forward
right.
will be extremely
That's exactly right.
difficult. Trusting,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
That's exactly right.
There was an old girlfriend of mine. We keep her brother and I are really good friends, and Connie was a singer, and we've known each other since we were 15.
Oh, nice.
So we were talking out in L.A. where she lives at one point. We were having lunch, and she said, I never told you this, but you hurt me so deeply that I've never been able to give fully 100% to my husband.
Wow.
There's always this part you get to. So when you're betrayed and that wound, even though it scabs up, scars up, heals up, there's still something inside of us. So going forward, again, you're single, but at some point you're going to have to share this. When do you come across somebody you trust enough? Do you think you'll know that?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm dating somebody right now, and so I'll say that just so that if she watches this, she won't be like, "You said you were single."
Yeah.
No, so
Yeah.
It's
She's
really
not gonna watch it.
Yeah, that's true. I'll be like, yeah, it
She's
went,
like my wife.
really
She
poorly.
doesn't
Don't watch it.
anything I do. So,
Like, I don't think you should watch that. The trust is really hard for me and complicated. You're exactly right, and it's very intuitive that you said that. It's just intimacy and trust. And intimacy and trust are so related to each other. They're kind of the same thing, or one sort of leads into the other. And I am learning, and God is teaching me, I should say, that the reality is I have to trust the Lord completely. And that's the only thing that'll free me up to trust anybody else, or, to give myself in a loving relationship, whether that's, love, romantic love, marriage, family, but anything, friendship, community. And so, again, it's another one of the things in a long list of things that God is refining in me and in all of us is I have to trust him first in order to trust anybody else. I have to have intimacy with him first before I can have intimacy with anybody else, because then I'm not going to anybody saying, you have to be the perfect measure of trust. You have to never betray me. You have to never jeopardize our intimacy or our trust, because that's not possible, and nobody can ever live up to that, but the Lord can live up to that. And so if there's freedom there, then there's freedom to kind of step into anything else eyes wide open, saying, I'm going to choose to trust you, but my ultimate trust is somewhere else, you know?
Right.
And so I say that I still struggle with it a lot, though. That's hard on a practical level and continues to be challenging in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm 7 years old and I'm still dealing with
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah.
It was interesting, the conversation. I just started praying with my wife every night.
Oh, wow.
39 years into marriage.
Wow.
We would start it, we'd stop. We'd start it, stop, start it, and stop. In the first of the year, I said to her, I'm going to come to your side of the bed every night. I'm going to kneel on the floor and thank God for you. And so far, you know, and the fun part is having an argument earlier in the evening. And laying on the side of the bed going, I could skip a night, you know. But again, that trust part of God pulling you. Mm-hmm. No, this is for you guys. Mm-hmm. This is what I wanted for you for 39 years.
That's right.
And I'm, you know, it's as intimate as we can get. Mm-hmm. Again, most people associate intimacy with sex, and the two are connected, but they're not even remotely the same thing.
That's right.
So we live in a culture today that with Tinder and Grindr and hookup, and where they've convinced themselves that sex is biological. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's just a biological function, and you know. And I've read a number of articles written by people from kids that got through college and said, I never made eye contact. I never talked. I never had a conversation with. We're at a point in our marriage where the intimacy is coming from just holding hands and being present while she's talking to me. And again, I'm 70. I know what I felt like at 30. I mean, hormones are raging, and, you know, so, but once you've been violated, to learn to trust somebody's motives, I admire you at your age to be dealing with this stuff.
Well, I appreciate it.
Some woman is going to be lucky.
No, I appreciate that.
To know you.
Appreciate that.
I guess you can't lie to God. So in those earlier prayers when you were angry, did you shake your fists at the heavens? Did you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So again, God can handle.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, and it's similar to what I said earlier. He already knows. What can I hide from the Lord? He knows me and He made me, so I can't hide anything from Him. And looking back, and still dealing with some of that stuff, I'm not totally separate from that now. I still have moments of weakness and many moments of weakness. But there were, I was weeping. I would yell. I would scream. I've kind of done and said a lot of things, again, that if somebody would have been watching me in my bedroom yelling and screaming those things, they'd be like, this guy's crazy. But the Lord used that somehow. And I've had to, again, in the evolution, sort of the growth that God has done in my life, come back to a lot of those things and be like, I just misunderstood. I misunderstood what was happening. And at the same time, I was just experiencing my humanity. I was experiencing what it feels like to be a 24, 25, 26-year-old that can't get out of bed every day. And so there's a wrestling there with God's grace and His compassion for us, and trying to accept that and receive that, and at the same time still knowing that He's God and there's a reverence there. And you know, the word talks about fearing the Lord, and that's what fearing the Lord is. It's having a reverence for God. But we can't jeopardize one for the other. They both have to exist simultaneously. And sometimes I kind of shifted back and forth between those two things. So I've come to learn a lot about, like, when I want to shake my fists at the Lord, I'm probably angry with some fallen part of the world that I'm living in, which, by the way, I contribute to. As a fallen man, I contribute to that fallen world. And there's something good about that, I actually think. To identify brokenness in the world, there's something healthy to that, because I'm saying this isn't right. And it's God is going to make all of those things right. He's going to wipe every tear from every eye. But right now, it's not like that. And so if somebody were to come in and say to me, like, yeah, you were abused. Well, God wanted that for you. God gave that to you. And I'm like, what in the, you would never tell somebody that, and it's not true.
Right.
But what his word says is he takes all things and he works them together for the good of those who love him. That's what scripture, that's different than saying this is a good thing.
Right.
I don't think abuse is a good thing. I think it's objectively a bad thing. It is a byproduct of a fallen world. It's not a godsend.
No.
And so those are two really different approaches, and they do very different things to a person.
Oh, yeah. Tammy told me that people would come to her during her breast cancer and at Christian events and say, what sin do you think you committed that God would give you breast cancer? And she waited 12 years to tell me that. I mean, because she said you'd leap over the table.
Yeah, I was going to say. She knew how you would react.
In a Christian loving way, of course.
Right.
Ripping their thyroid out. But, but that's a maturity that comes actually through pain.
That's right. That's right.
It really is. And were you an angry kid? Did you have that? Because I had it. I was angry from the time I can remember.
I don't know if I was an angry kid, competitive, and maybe that's just me hiding anger with competitiveness. I don't think I was an angry kid.
No, you would know. I mean,
not so much.
Have just fits of rage.
No, but anger is something that came up later in life, kind of through all this.
Well, they say anger is a recovery emotion for sadness.
That's exactly right.
So you get sad, and then eventually you don't want to feel that anymore.
That's
so you
exactly
cover it
right.
with your anger.
That's right.
And that's what I had to learn. I had to get down to the little kid that was just neglected.
That's right.
And friends were glad to hear that all the time. I was a sad little boy.
It helps them.
Shut up! Hit the golf ball. Will you?
I actually heard it's actually a veteran, I think, that said this, but he said helplessness produces rage, and he had worked with a lot of PTSD victims, and it struck a chord for me, because I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, all these things that I'm so angry about, the common thread is I was helpless. There was nothing for me to do, and everything was out of my control, and so it felt like the only normal reaction was to get angry and to be like, this isn't fair. Right. And so anger was just sort of the natural, but you're exactly right. Really, helplessness it's a sadness. It's like, why is nobody stepping in? Why is nobody saying something? Why is nobody giving me, what I'm looking for, what I'm asking for? So I learned that too. Helplessness and sort of that loss of control can produce some really ugly emotions.
Do you keep in touch with any of your teammates?
So I have two sets of them. So I have teammates from NC State, where I first went, and then my Lipscomb teammates. And so I yes is the short answer. Actually got a text from one of my old NC State buddies a couple days ago. And again, there's like a legal case that's happening right now. So some of that's connected to that. But I've got a couple of buddies that I've stayed connected with. I was in one of their weddings and that kind of thing. So yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah. Did they read the book?
They did read the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. It's a cool thing to share with people who. It's cool. It's also a little scary to be like, you knew me when I was a very different person, and now I'm giving you a book about prayer and,
especially poetry.
That's right.
You know,
I'm like, here's my book of poetry. Yeah, that's right.
I went to get into theater when I was in high school, and my friends mercilessly mocked me out of theater.
That's right.
They, and that side of us, the creative side, when you're an athlete, is not nurtured. Let's just put it that
That's
way.
exactly right.
Yeah, you know. So, but it's good to have people who knew you when and watched you go through that, because believe me, whether they want to tell you or not, they admire you. I watched a friend of mine who was very wealthy lose everything and not complain once.
Wow.
Just confused as to why God put it on his heart to do with his money what he did, and then it cost him everything.
Interesting.
He really believed that that was God's will for him to do this. Powerful, powerful testimony in watching him walk through this. And again, knowing, you know, he had a relationship, strong relationship with Christ, but just as a human being in a fallen world, I was so convinced, you know, and he's since got into another line of work and did very well in that.
That's awesome.
You know, but it pushed him in another direction in life. And that's why I say God's a great improviser.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
So where can I get the book? Everywhere?
Yeah, so the book is available everywhere books are sold, is what my publisher tells me to say.
Yeah.
So Amazon, Target, you know, all the...
You're in Target?
I don't know if I'll be in the brick and mortars. I don't know if I've made it to that level yet, but it's on the website. It's on Target.
My book never made it to Target.
Well, you might have to have some conversations.
I will.
With the manager.
Target, I love Target. You know. Do you still stay relatively centered now? I mean, if you still haven't had an answer to why all this happened.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you'll never will. You may one day, in a dream, it'll come to you. You know, and again, there's something about time and distance that gives you a different perspective as you grow. You're not at a point where you're thanking God for this.
I am.
Really?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time. And again, one of the things that I'm learning, like right now, actually, one of the things that I think God is teaching me is I'm a very linear person. Some of that's my athletic, the DNA. I want things to be clear. I want it to be black and white. I don't do well in the gray areas. And one of the things I'm learning is the way God sees things is so much different than the way I see things. And I see it right now, and a lot of times I look back, and so that's kind of how I see things, what's happening right now and what happened. And that naturally leads to a lot of questioning and why, and this doesn't make sense, and this isn't fair. God, on the other hand, is working like a million different things at the same time, and he's outside of time. And so to try to give myself a little more grace to be like, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
Well, that's got to be one of the things that it's taught you is patience.
It's been forced.
Forced in
That's
laying
right.
in bed for 22 hours a day.
That's right. Yep.
You learn that,
Yeah.
this immediate gratification
Yeah.
is doesn't always come.
That's right.
For someone listening right now who's struggling and thinks that God is not there, God has forgotten them, God is punishing them, God is all of those things that go through your mind when life just implodes on you. What the book is for them, right?
That's exactly right. And first and foremost, that person, like, you're not alone, and that doesn't disqualify you. Again, I think that's something people need to hear and people need to know, is that you're not less than, even if you're wrestling with your faith or abandoning your faith, it doesn't make you less of a person or less of a believer or less of anything.
God doesn't love you any less.
Doesn't love you. That's exactly right. God's love doesn't change.
Right.
And I would, again, what I've learned in my encouragement is that in some ways you lean into that. Like you've got to lean into the anger and the frustration. I mean, you can't get to the root of your anger without getting to the root of your anger. You have to do something. You have to process it. You have to think through it. You have to ask people about it. You have to, there's work that's required. And a lot of times that work just looks like discovering and asking questions. And for me, it was...
And sitting quietly for 7 days.
That'll do it too. Yeah. Listen, allow some of those emotions to come. And then again, for me, it was writing. It was just, I want to take these things and I want to put them on the page. And for whatever reason, as soon as I would get done writing something, I was like, I feel better. And the only thing that changed is I took the things that were in my head and I put them on paper.
They've done studies that is a valid healing process. There's a difference between, okay, I thought about it, I processed it.
Right.
And another thing of just writing it out, because I journaled as well. And when you start writing, sometimes it's just, okay, well, this happened and that's okay, I forgive and blah, blah, and then the pen gets a little tighter and it's just,
That's right.
And you end up ripping the page out.
That's right.
Crumbling it up.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool, and it might not be writing for everybody, but there are so many things. Having conversations with people, art, and it is funny. I was never a creative person growing up. Soccer was, I guess, an expression of that, but there's so many avenues to do that. A lot of times it just takes the first step to be like, I'm just going to explore this thing or test this thing out. And that's what it was for me. I never set out to write a book.
Right.
Never in a million years when I started writing that journal was I like, this is going to be a book one day.
I never set out to do comedy. And
here you are. Here you are. There you go. God has a funny way of doing that.
Right.
What
do they say? People plan, God laughs.
That's right.
You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Be like, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I love the analogy. I did a fundraiser for a guy who went to New York to be a hedge fund manager. And when I did his fundraiser, he's in Alabama, in the middle of nowhere, in a small town. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I teach middle-class skills to men coming out of prison. And I go, what is that? And he goes, well, things you take for granted. Your parents taught you this. Why you bathe before a job interview, why you buy nice clothes for a job interview, why you work, why it's important, and to tell the truth and all this stuff that we were taught, And I said, do you always want to do it? He goes, no, I want to be a hedge fund, So I was thinking about it, and I said that the literal translation of inspiration is God breathed. So here's this kid in New York going, I'm going to make millions, man. I'm going to make millions. God goes,
yeah.
And he goes, all right, I'll go to Alabama and I'll work with these.
That's incredible.
So it's a great image of how God works. It's just a gentle nudge, and somebody once told me, God will get your attention. It's just a question of how much pain can you take.
Well, and you look at the Bible. I mean, it's just filled with people who, I think about Paul all the time. Like, they were going this direction, and God was like, let me pick you up out of there and drop you in here. And why does he have to do that? Because when we allow the Lord to transform us, when God transforms our lives, it's evidence that he did it and not evidence that I did it. And when it's drastic like that, and you asked me the question actually about playing soccer, and if I were to go pro, most of the people I know or would have known, they would have been like, this makes sense for you. You were always you were always the best player. You were always a good athlete. This makes sense that you're a pro athlete. You want to know what doesn't make sense to them?
You're writing poetry.
You're writing poetry, and you're publishing your first book about God, and it's a book of prayers. And so there's a way that God does things and takes us out of our way and puts us in a completely new way that people look at and be like, there's no way Ben did that. There's no way Jeff chose that path. The Lord had to do that for him. And there's a reason for that, because then it's like, well, yeah, the Lord did this. I didn't do this,
Wow. I think we can end on that. That is just my message. I guess the message of this is just let God work in your life and get out of the way. and we do tend to muddle up things as people. Okay, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah,
It really
nice
was.
meeting you as well.
And write another book. We'll have you back.
That sounds good.
And we may even have you back before then because we didn't get to a lot of stuff. I love. This is why I do what I do on the podcast. This may shock some listeners. I don't make a nickel on this. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, the one sponsor I have, I never even mentioned, Nordic Wave, cold plunge. I just cold plunged this morning, as a matter of fact. And go to NordicWave.com, put in Jeff 150, and save $150. Again, that's part of the wellness. We do talk a lot about that here. And we tend to lean holistic in our medical needs as well. And as a recovering drug addict, I'm always hesitant to just pop a pill to fix, to mask pain.
Yep.
So anyway, Ben Locke, thank you very much. Pick the book up wherever you can buy books. Target. Maybe someday.
Amazon.
Amazon. Well, I'm on Amazon.
There we go.
I don't want to tell the people because I sell it for $25 at my shows and it's $12.50 on Amazon. That's why everybody hates Jeff Bezos.
They'll do that. They can do that, I guess, can't they?
Yeah. They got a discount on my book, but you don't get it signed by me like you do at the show. And speaking of shows, I am out and about everywhere. In my stand-up show. And please go to the website, jeffallencomedy.com. Please like this, share it, subscribe, and all that stuff. We're trying to grow this, and because we get to have people like this on that I hope, and comment on it. And please feel free to share what you're going through. Sometimes it's cathartic, and sometimes there's a community of believers that will see what you wrote on a comment or something and reach out. There's help available. And God bless you, man. And
thank you.
Going forward.
I appreciate you having me.
Great to meet you. Nice to meet you too, man.
Appreciate it.
See you next week.